That was good at the time.
Well, it was great at the time. You know, Robert Downey Jr. was in the bathroom with me.
You might want to be careful. You might want to be careful about what was taking place in that with that statement. Wow. Depending on the time frame, I'm just saying.
No, this was Iron Man days. And here we are. Let's start by saying that this is a historic day.
I'm ready.
This is the first time in 2 years that I've been actually in a decent mood starting with the podcast.
Wait. There's a direct correlation. There's a direct correlation. Go ahead and show us what you brought today. Not one, but two. Yeah. So let's.
I do have that coffee high right now.
Let's do the math on that one.
Michael Nantkin. I'm getting a lot of good feedback, like from old college people that were in film school, and then a couple of random people looked him up and then somehow got to my work account and was like, hey, you know, it was really cool to see him. I was a big fan of him, and he named a bunch of shows. That was cool.
Oh, wow. Cool. That is cool. Yeah, I had a few people reach out similarly. I told them to go comment because I know how agitated you are that doesn't happen. No, Mom, I shouldn't even use that word with you.
I yell at my mom every week. I yell at her. I'm like, please comment. And David,
you know, listen, calling individuals out to make them comment isn't really going to solve this problem for you.
It did because there's someone who did, and she knows who she is.
So, but I received a couple of like IMs or text messages or whatever as well that were like, you know, Michael was really interesting and Michael was, you know, really cool. And so it was fun. I remember when you and I hung up, you know, with him during the recording of that and thought that was great. That went really well. It was very enjoyable.
Speaking of the entertainment business, you know who we have on today?
Who do we have on today? My co-host, my friendly co-host.
So excited about this one. It's the first time that we're bringing an actual friend on.
Yeah, this is a crossover for us.
No. Let me rephrase that because it's not like we have had friends on.
Yes, I thought that same thing.
Right,
yes.
But this is like old school friend. We've known him for 20 years. No,
you've more than that because
oh my God, dude! I was like, no way, we're that old.
Yeah, we are. So I had to think through the same thing because I thought the same thing. I was like, yeah, we're going to announce that it's the first time we're having a friend. I was like, no, that's not really true.
It's not true.
It's not true.
Most of the people that we've had on are friends.
Truthfully, they're doing us favors.
Yeah.
So, but it is the first person that crosses that friend family kind of mentality, right?
And we live together.
Yes, you'll dive in. We all lived together, but you lived with him for numerous places.
Yeah, so it's my old college roommate, DP, director, editor. I mean, basic graphic wizard. Anything that has to do with the entertainment business, he can do extremely well. It's Brandon Dumlau, who's going to be coming on in probably about 10 minutes, but. This dude, I mean, it's so weird because like we're towing that line of like, we know so much about each other's history and but it's like the audience doesn't, but also like there's certain things we can't talk about because I don't want him telling people my stories.
There's like, video proof between the three of us of things that are
when you
never
live with someone in college, he is the only person like you may have videos of this or photos. Our beds in the first apartment were like right next to each other. You'd have to squeeze by like sideways to get through our beds. And I remember like him and I would stay up. I bought off one of those infomercials at night, a magic set, teach yourself magic. And I would sit there and practice. I was horrible. And but Brandon's such a nice guy. He's like he did the whole like, how'd you do that? It's me like coins are falling on my hand and stuff. Like he's just such a nice guy. He's the nicest guy in the world. And we'll get into this too because I think we've talked about how I always have to have an enemy. You know, for me.
Oh wait, I was going to bring this up. This is one of my talking points.
Okay, we'll get to it. We'll get to it there. But
yes, let's wait for him. That's one of my talking points.
Okay, he can tell his side of it because we've told this to everyone who meets us. We've told the story, but just credit wise, like if you look at his credits, like first of all, he was the DP for The Simple Man Netflix. Yeah.
What is a DP for those who don't know?
Director of photography. He's the
Thank
one
you.
who's in charge of the look of everything that goes out there. Everything runs through Brandon. So, just when you're producing, you say like, or directing, you want to say like, I want it to be like this, and then he's in charge of making the look happen. Then you have the set designers, production designers, so they all working together. But he was the DP of Simple Man Netflix #2. If you haven't watched it, Steve Treviño, go watch it. But it was the first, like, it was the, like, I was so proud of that moment. And if you go on we'll probably put it up here, but of us just hanging out, taking pictures. And, Steve, obviously I knew Steve from Miami. I believe Brandon met him in Miami too, 20 years ago. So from all of us starting where we were to then, at the Tobin Center shooting this amazing Netflix special was, gosh, a dream come true. Like when you're in college, you have these visions of grandeur, right? But you don't, like, it's the industry's far different than I thought it would be, but it's also far different than it was. Sure. And we can certainly talk about that. But anyways, he's the director. He's also the DP for Addiction Unplugged. He's the DP for Paper Children. He directed, a million music videos. He edited a million music videos. He was up for Video of the Year with Akon Locked Up.
And he got into music videos early.
Got
right? Like
really early.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I don't know if we could tell this story or not. Well, I'm sure we can because I got yelled at for it. But so there was this. We'll just be very vague about it. There was this massive hip hop band. This had to have been in the early 2000s, and Brandon. I don't know why he was typically editing these music videos for the studios and the record companies. I mean, massive artist that Brandon does. Everyone you've heard of, Kanye West, blah blah blah. I never edited a music video until they called me up and said, "Hey, can you edit this music video?" I was like, "Yeah," and they wanted me on it because they're like, "Your storytelling, the way you edit story is really good, and this is a story-based music video." And you had a lot of editing experience at the time, but not editing music videos, right? It's certainly not for a record company, So sure. So we get there.
There where?
The edit bay. I get there and I probably start at like 5 because I was going to be on an overnight shift to get it done for the next morning. So I get there and I can't even name the director. This director is so big. I can't even name it because I don't want this out
You'll
there.
put the pieces together. Yeah.
This director is so big though. This is such an embarrassing story. This guy, the movies this guy's done. So we have a meeting with him in the morning. So this has to be done by then. So I start at like 5 and at about midnight, I have maybe 30 seconds done of probably the worst music video you've ever seen. It doesn't make any sense. Dude, I like my brain. I had that just look of defeat of like, or not look. I mean, I was defeated, just totally defeated, like tears in the eyes. Like, what do I do? Like, I have no idea. So what did I do? Call my boy Brandon.
That's right. Call Brandon.
Brandon at midnight shows up, and in 2 hours he's got this thing cut. And he's like, "Look, man, just don't tell anyone that I did this. It's like it's kind of bad form to bring in other people, and for me to come in without the record company knowing, blah blah blah." It's like, absolutely. So I was like, all right, let me just wait 20 years and I'll tell it on a podcast.
Yeah.
So, but like when I say he saved me, like saved me. And so I'm on with this director the next day and he's like a fantastic edit. He's like, you hit it out of the park for a first time edit. It's like, got some minor notes. I was like, whew.
Man,
dude, that pit in your stomach, like, oh, I screwed up.
That's really, I know that feeling very well. So that's a really interesting, that's an interesting story that you like, just because like switching the genre, if you will, for the edit, like threw you off so much because you were, you had capabilities to edit. So, we don't have to dive into that. I just think it's really interesting.
We don't. But I sat next to Brandon and watched because all editing is your opinion, right?
Sure.
Where you cut and stuff. And the director has their opinion. Producers have their opinions. Writers have their opinions. That's why you get friction sometimes when not everyone's working together. So watching Brandon's his mentality on why he did it. And he's sitting there, Brandon, we'll talk to him about this. He'll teach anyone anything.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't
100%.
matter. Like,
yeah,
he'll teach it. He talk about a guy who doesn't hold secrets. Like, this guy will tell you anything about the industry. Yeah, total open book. And that was the thing. He was sitting there telling me the whole time about, like, hey, we're gonna do, like, this is why this shot works. Here's what we're gonna do here. And,
got it.
oh my God, it was saved me.
So that's such an interesting feeling. I had a whole bunch of things like rush back to my head about that whole calling on someone and they bail you out, right, type thing. And there were so Brandon is absolutely that guy. I mean, we should say as such while he's on, right?
No, I'm not like the thing about our friendship, you, me, and Brandon. We can't tell him any of this. I also think because of our relationship and the ins and outs, this might be a little bit longer podcast.
We'll see.
So buckle up.
Not for the listener; they'll be out in 30 seconds.
Dude, Mom, if you've made it this far, Mom, just here. No. Listen, here. Just type in help. Just in the comment, type in help if you've made it this far.
Then we'll know.
All right. So wait. So you ebbed and flowed, or what are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good already. Ebb and flow. Here we Hawaiian go. Yeah.
What? Oh crap!
What are you all crapping about? He starts off with a no crap.
What's up, Mr. Hawaiian? Actually, like, let's first say why Eric did the ebb and flow like that is because you are Hawaiian, straight from Hawaii.
Brandon, I even themed my hoodie today. I don't know if you can see it with Maui. I got this when we went to Hawaii a couple years back with the family. This is also the final voyage for this hoodie because it completely disintegrated after multiple washes. So I'm like, we're gonna put it on the podcast, and then it's gonna get tossed.
Where I would like to start is because Eric wouldn't let me tell this before you got on. We've talked about it on this podcast before, how I have to have an enemy and I have to push myself by being like, all right, that person's good. I got to be better than that person. So in college, when I first got there, and keep in mind, I didn't know anything about filmmaking, or I hate the word filmmaking, but the entertainment industry. And all I heard, this was year number 2, because I was a year ahead of you. All I heard was this: Brandon Dumlau knows how to shoot. Brandon Dumlau knows how to edit. Brandon Dumlau knows how to do graphics. Brandon Dumlau can write. He can direct. He can do it all. And I hated you. I'm like, well, there's a guy I gotta go beat. So I spent 6 months trying to beat you, and I haven't even met you at this point. And then it was almost like a bully in a old high school film where I see you and I'm like, I'm just going to go dominate this guy. I go up to you and you happen to be the nicest guy in the world. And it irritated the shit out of me.
I want to add. So I just want to add, because this is, because I was going to open with congratulating you, Brandon, in the fact that you are one of very few people that Rick decided to turn into an ally instead of an enemy.
I just had to kill him with kindness.
but you know what it is Brandon, is your and I want to get into, like, you came to school knowing basically everything. You were teaching teachers stuff. No joke. You were teaching teachers how to do things, from equipment to. So first of all, I want to get into what makes you the type of person you are that kind of will help everyone, but also, why did you start so early?
So I was in middle school. Well, okay. So just out of context, it's sort of like my grandfather painted. That was like one of some of my earliest like memories, was just like seeing his paintings. I never really knew that part of my family, but I always kind of wanted to connect with it. And when I got into middle school was when like arts started kind of getting introduced, and it was purely by accident because I also am really bad at school, or at least I was. So I would always try to take like the classes that were the most fun. So I took a class that was literally like setting up a museum. It's bizarre, but in Hawaii we had a museum in our middle school, and you could take a class where you learned history, and then you would teach that history to like grade schoolers. Oh, wow. And that teacher, his name was Ernest, or is it Ernest Favorite? Mr. Favorite. which is kind of a fun name. He's our
His name
favorite
was
teacher.
Mr. Favorite. That's a total stage name. There's no way that's his name.
I think Brandon should take that from here forward, if I'm being honest.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today we have on Mr. Favorite.
Mr. Favorite in the house.
Mr. Favorite was awesome. But so Mr. Favorite just bought a video camera. And it was just laying there, and we would just play with it, and it was regularly fun. Then I put it down and forgot about it. Then in high school, I did terribly my freshman year, like absolutely wrecked my freshman year. And coming into my sophomore year, the teacher says, "I don't think you should be. I think I like to draw, so like you shouldn't be in art class. Go to the video class." And that was like kind of it, like the bug hit. They had all the cool machines. Ricky, you remember old 3/4 giant machines? I mean,
you can't teach that stuff now. Like everything that we learned back then was outdated now.
Yeah.
You just touched on one thing that Rick and I touched on in your intro when we were talking about you, which is your willingness to teach other people things. And you just touched on it right off the bat with that museum class and taking that history and being able to teach it to the elementary school kids. Like, so at a very early age, you learned like kind of like passing along information in an actual formal sense. So it kind of developmentally, it makes sense that you were kind of mentally there.
Yeah. But that's the root of it all, right? Like it's, you can't be afraid to pass the knowledge you have forward. That the people that you teach will one day come on. Well, maybe Rick.
Yes. he just threw up in his mouth a little bit.
Yeah, like God. No, but like you sit there and you want the person that you're teaching to succeed and hopefully one day be better than you, and you can't be afraid of that. Here's the thing: the way I look at it, they can accumulate as much knowledge as I have, but I have the experience on them. And by the time they get to where I'm at, I'm somewhere else.
I want to talk about the grades thing because we went to a small podunk film school in Miami, right? If your check cleared, you got in. Is that why you chose that school? Because you came in with such a talent. Like, why wouldn't it have been USC or NYU or something?
Well, this goes back to bombing my freshman year of high school.
Is that what it was?
Well, what happened was I'm hopefully the schools in Hawaii are better now, but I had missed a credit. I missed a math credit in high school, and it was because I had to retake the math for my freshman year, and they never gave me geometry, and we didn't figure that out until my senior year. That I'd taken a class twice, and they didn't. So by that point, I couldn't get into any formal school without going and taking another semester of the classes to make it up, to get the right prerequisites. So I was like, well, I could stay here for another whatever months and figure this out, or just go to a school that will take me. And so I narrowed it down to about 3 schools. And
Miami's just history.
But Miami
Miami felt right. Miami.
Did you get a scholarship?
Felt similar. I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. That probably helped too, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So were you able to actually come over and tour places to make that decision and like meet with people and do all that?
Wow, these are like really old stories. I'm thinking.
I know. Yeah, we'll get to the new stuff. We're gonna be on for a while.
Well, no, these are good. These are good because like it's so funny because as I'm going through this in my head, you're reminding me that the act of paying it forward has kind of always been a constant with me. When I was in a senior in high school, my ex-girlfriend at the time, father had promised me that he would take me to go see schools. And even though like I had broken up with his daughter, or sorry,
he just wanted you off the island.
She broke up with me. But probably my fault.
We don't have to get into it. We don't have to.
We don't get into that. But he still did it, and it was the most amazing thing
cool.
that he could have done. When we came over, we came to Miami. We saw the Miami school. We drove up to Winston-Salem because it was another art school. But yeah, if it wasn't for the act of like somebody super kind, I probably wouldn't end up here.
But like we're gonna bounce around because there's so many ideas in the film school thing that I want to get to, but I do want to get to the kind of professional side of things. you and I kind of grew up, especially since we were living, we grew up in the industry together, and you kind of always were one step ahead of me in terms of the jobs and what you were doing, and so good at showing me how you do it. Actually, let's go back to the very first professional job you had. What was it? And I want to know the feeling, because like any job is nervous, right? But so what was the first in the entertainment business? And then I want to know what was your first kind of major success?
First actual job was in college. It was I think I was 19 at the time. It was like the second year of college or something like that. And this actually I had on my list as a defining moment.
Yes, perfect. I love this.
That I put in there.
I love it.
So Rick and I went to a art school, but they also had this giant fashion department, and it was like the center point of every single like party or event. So we went to a fashion show, and my cousin had somehow gotten me a tuxedo. I'm not going to question how it got to me, but somehow I got a tuxedo for my cousin, and I decided to wear it. It had the rental tag still inside. I don't. No questions asked. No problem. So I wore this tuxedo to this event, and I took all these pictures. I can send you the picture. This is a really cheesy one with me. The rose in my mouth is bad.
Yes,
but I think it's better if you don't send that.
Here it is.
Here it is. So I'm at this party, and a friend of mine says, "Hey, someone just called me because they're looking for someone to edit a music video." And I had never edited a music video. I didn't know first way of, didn't know how to begin doing that. So I left the party and I showed up at like 10 o'clock at night to the studio and about that. And I walk in with the tuxedo.
Oh,
nice. I mean, editing attire if there ever was any.
I got to show you. I just hired someone to look at the fire pit in my backyard, and he showed up in a top hat and a tuxedo.
That's the way to go. You will get a job children, show up with a tuxedo and you will get a job.
Children.
What do you think listens to this? Caden?
Long story short, I show up, do the job, do the gig. They're happy, and 3 weeks later, I get another call back that we have a boxing show for pay-per-view.
Oh, right.
Like one of those pre-shows. That's how I ended up doing the boxing shows.
And you did the graphics for that too.
And I did the graphics for the boxing shows. And
I did God,
good like half a dozen or so.
Yeah, I know. And you were so young, and so this goes back to like I hated you until I met you, and I was like, I can't beat this guy, so I just have to like team up with him. And I've done that for the past 20, 30 years, whatever.
Well, I remember that conversation, actually. We were in the car. You're just like, hey, do you want to live with me? And I'm like, sure.
Completely self-motivated. If I'm going to learn from this guy, I just need to get him to move in. That's
Dude, and I offered you nothing to do it. I was just like, do you want to move in? And you're like, all right.
I didn't know what that meant, by the way. I had no idea what I was
I know you didn't, because you were still in school and you didn't have a car, and this was far, so you had to take a bus every day. I was Brandon, let me
50 minutes to get to school every day.
Brandon, I would just like to say I'm sorry it's taken this long to apologize. This is my coming out to you apologizing story. But Brandon, go like I'm always, because your and my first time editing a music video are very similar, which means you were involved in both of them. When I was that nervous, scared feeling of like, what do I do? So I called in you, but did you have that at all? Or were you confident that like, look, because even now, like I still get nervous to edit stuff, and I'm like, I've been doing it long enough that.
Yeah. I would always, I guess if you don't get that, you're past whatever you're doing, right? I mean, there should be an element of that. So
interesting.
Yeah, I guess.
Philosophical. I like it.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. See, no longer crazy rose biting there.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
And I guarantee that tuxedo is with you somewhere.
Can we just do a transition and I'll spin in my chair and then come back with oh my God, wait, well, the question was nervousness. So yeah.
Wow, here we go. He's so proud of himself with his little triggers.
Oh, wait, you said transition?
Oh, look at that. There it is.
That's classic. That's a classic.
Rick was apologizing for making you live 50 minutes away with no car.
Yes. And then he whooshes me. Dude, I remember, do you remember Budget Video?
Yeah, of course.
They still exist, but they were named something. They were called Supergroup at the time.
I edited a feature film out of there.
Yeah. So they had that.
That's actually how I met Jeff and Jamie.
What?
Yeah, it was when I was editing the feature. They did the music for it.
You edited in there. Was it in their tape to tape bay, or was it in there?
No, it was Media 100. It was in this back room, little dark thing.
No. So I went in there. And to tell this story, there's another story that I just, of course, but we can get back to it. But I had an internship in high school, which we can get into. That sort of like set everything up for me, but. When I got into college, I got this weird gig. It was just editing a thing tape to tape, and I had seen it done. I kind of knew the gist of it. And I did it on 3/4 in school, but I had never done it professionally. So I get it, and I call up the only person I know. Her name is Charlene Honda. She was the lead editor at the place that I interned at. And she like walked me through it. She talked me down from a ledge, and I got in there, and I had like hives. I was like shaking because I was like, I've never done this before. Yeah. And it was fine, but it's hilarious because when you watch that edit, you can tell that I knew how to cut in the first like 5 minutes of the edit. Then about 10 minutes, I learned how to dissolve. And then by the end, I could do dips to black. So like, and this is like linear editing. So you can't go back and redo it as easily as you can now.
Sure. Yeah. Wow.
So but like Brandon, you bring up a thing that is almost a thread throughout the podcast that we've with professionals is this, I'm just going to do it. Where do you think that comes from? That for you to just go like tape to tape, I'm just going to do it. Like, I mean, and by the way, tape to tape was dying. I mean, it was on its last leg. For you to edit that had to have been on its last leg. You're probably the last person to ever edit with that.
Definitely wasn't its last leg. And the whole, like, you got to do it, I think is like a childhood thing because so somebody equated it to me as called like spare part, like growing up with spare parts. I grew up in my grandmother's, my grandparents' house, and there was just a lot of spare parts, and Eric will resonate with this one. So I wanted a radio when I was a kid. Like, Mom, I want a radio, and she couldn't get me one at the time. So I went in and I found a car stereo, and then I found a little battery, 12-volt battery, and I just wired it up. And then I went into the back of this car that didn't work that was parked in the garage, and I took out the speaker and I put it in a coffee can, and I like wired it up, and that was my radio. So it's like it was necessity. It had nothing to do with like a goal, like an end goal. It was just like, this would be cool. Nobody else is doing it, so I'm just going to do it.
But that's one thing to do it for yourself with no deadline, no one counting on you, no pressure, right? It's another thing to go, I'm going to teach myself right now how to edit tape. People made a career out of doing it. And then here comes this, 19 or 20-year-old kid that's like, I can do it. And you probably did it better than anyone there, minus the dips to black.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just it's so weird because I think like you're only as driven as the people that you witness being driven, and the people that teach you.
Huh. Your examples.
Your examples. You follow your examples, right? And I think that's. I mean, obviously, maybe a seed of it starts somewhere, but along the way in life, like there's going to be examples of being hardworking and also. Oh, my cat just jumped on my laptop. Hold on. Dude.
I love this.
It's funny. The two people in the industry. That's awesome. The two people in the industry have constantly have the tech problems.
She somehow turned on Carnet browsing. I don't know what that is. Yeah, she hit a hotkey. My cat does hotkeys.
I actually really appreciate that you said it was out of necessity, right? So necessity is an interesting term because it was sort of like a desire, like a driven desire, right? It wasn't a necessity for you to have that radio. It was a driven desire. And so I wonder how that translates over to like a necessity, but the necessity could be necessity for success to professionally, right? To be able to know you're going to get paid, know that, how do I succeed in this thing? It's necessary for me to succeed in order to make a living, to be able to feed myself, to be able to go whatever. So it's an interesting term to use for necessity, for what drives, you to be successful or push yourself to learn the thing and do the thing.
Yeah. But drive changes, right? Throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
When you're younger, it's like proving yourself. And then as you get older and you kind of feel like I have proven myself, what other lanes can I prove myself in? Maybe that's the direction you go, or maybe you go somewhere else. But it's when you're at that age, when you're like 18, 19, 20, you're just trying to make a name for yourself. You're just trying to prove that I exist and I deserve to be in the room.
Yeah.
And
you're paid accordingly, by the way.
Oh, right. I got paid dirt. I remember.
I remember you were the first person that ever got a nonlinear editing machine in their house, and you won it at a contest or something like that. And I remember, like, you were working 10 hours a day at whatever post facility you're at. You would come home, eat while you were working, and stay up till like 2-3 in the morning to get up to do it again. And you were getting paid maybe you were doing $200 like to edit these things, like maybe
some of them in hindsight used me. Like I would
100%. One of those people is on the podcast right now.
Two, I think. I'm pretty
sure.
Two
of the people are on the podcast
actually,
right
Brandon,
now.
we need to talk after we're done with this.
Yeah, I got a lot of work I need you to do.
I gotta go.
It's really interesting you guys both bring this up, because I remember both of you talking on numerous occasions, lots of conversations about the jobs that you guys were doing after hours, or the things you were doing and working on, and how these guys aren't paying me crap to do it, right? You guys kept doing it in certain regards to continue to try and build your career and build the experience. And yes, it's some income, but definitely not for the amount of time that you guys were putting in or what you were worth to do that thing. But those people would come to you guys because they could get you for cheap, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, because you spend all this time like learning this stuff, and you spend all this extra time creating it because you think that what you're creating is not great, so you kind of go overboard, and you just want somebody to like it at the end of the day. And then you're like, okay, I gotta pay this bill, so can I get paid now on something? And it kind of went last, right? And people knew that. And there's a certain degree of like, you got to pay your dues. Mm-hmm. But I think we well beyond paid our dues.
We went way beyond.
We were driving companies while paying dues.
Yeah. One of the first things that I remember that you were on a different level was you did this thing for LL Cool J, and you had this fire across the bottom. Do you remember that? Dude, I watched that. And I was like, first of all, how did you even come up with the idea of doing that? And then it came down to like, well, how do you even have the technical skill how to do it? And then how do you actually like have the guts to do it? All those things.
Well, that was, if I recall correctly, that was for an intro for a concert.
Yeah, correct.
Like they played it like on the screen, and Mission Impossible had come out around that time, and I really liked the lighting of the fuse. And then I had found these because I would collect, like every time I went to a job, and then you would just like collect whatever assets like you could collect. And I
sound
had
effects,
whatever.
Yeah. Video assets like an explosion.
So we have to give that context, right? Because we're old now, and that stuff wasn't all over the internet and readily available for everyone at the drop of a hat. Anybody can go Google any of that stuff now and go find that stuff, or tell the computer to put it in there magically and it'll just do it, right? This was well before any of that stuff. So that was the reasoning that you need to have your own archive and your own catalog, because that made you incredibly valuable at that time.
Yeah. So I just had this exactly. So I had this collection of fire, and it was just like lit, some fire that was being lit, and it sort of created itself based on the assets, because I would see the asset, it would be lit going left to right. I'm like, oh, that's cool. The client wanted to reveal photos. That was the only thing. Like, it has to be cool. We're revealing photos and we're using this song. That was the instructions. Anything else in between is up to you. And it's so vague. So yeah, that's just kind of part of it. It was what I was doing at the time. Oh, I like this movie. I have these assets. This can work.
That's cool.
Technically, I fumbled my way around it until I figured it out.
One of the things I want to, we're going to jump around here. Like, there are moments, for the most part, there are cool moments when you're doing a project, but it's like any other job, right? Like, you're like, oh, I got to work again today for the 10 hours. But then, like, the thing about the entertainment business is then you get to like premiere it, or you get the reviews, or you get people writing about it. Like, one of the coolest things, we'll get to Simple Man in a bit, but you, me, and Brad going to the Producers Guild Award. So we were nominated for Producers Guild for Tommy, which
no one knows what Tommy is.
Tommy Unger, he's an artist. It's called Far Out Isn't Far Enough. It's not on Netflix anymore. I think we're going to try and get it back up.
You should.
Yeah, I know. But
documentary.
But it was a documentary. It premiered at TIFF.
This is
Toronto.
So Eric
It's very inside baseball. What you need to know is, like, you and I, like, two people from a very small film school. Brad was from New York, and he worked at VH1, so he was already like, and he doesn't get impressed by anything. But I remember we walk in. You brought your mom, I brought Gigi, and then Brad brought the financier of the film. We walk into the Beverly Hilton, and I remember walking this way with Steven Spielberg, and then as he passes, Ron Howard walks this way, and then as he passes, Leonardo DiCaprio walks this way. And I was like, where are we? Kevin Spacey was hosting it, which,
that was good at the time.
Well, it was great at the time. Robert Downey Jr. was in the bathroom with me. Like, it was just one of these like starstruck, like, and we sat at the Colbert table. No, oh yeah, that sounds bad, right?
You might want to be careful about what was taking place in that. With that statement, depending on the time frame,
yeah,
I'm just saying.
No, this was Iron Man days.
They were like we were at the Colbert table.
Colbert, the Colbert Report. Yeah, the Daily Show and the Colbert Report. They were
That's right.
at our
and they're like,
no, they were at our table.
Yeah, we're like, we hope we win. We're like, where do we put this one?
Yeah, exactly. And then, it's funny because everyone's like, it's just an honor to be nominated. And I was like that until we got there. And then the competitive drive came out, and I was like, I want to destroy all these people. And spoiler alert, we did not win. But the after party. Let me tell you this. So this is one of my favorite stories because we have pictures of it. So we're in line to get drinks at the after party, and standing in front of us is Morgan Freeman. So Morgan Freeman turns around. I was like, oh man, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm like, we were nominated, but we lost. It's like, any way we can get a picture? And he goes, in his God voice, he's like, you guys lost tonight? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I don't take pictures with losers. Oh. Dude, my heart sank. And then he goes, all right, take a picture. And so I just grabbed Brandon and his mom and Gigi, and we all take a picture.
That's God. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Is that's the one? That's where your picture with Morgan Freeman, or did you do it again another time? No. That's the one.
That was it. Yeah, that's the only time I ever dressed up. Brandon, did you wear your tuxedo to that one?
with the tag?
Tuxedo.
So
that
wait,
one I actually got.
So what was the reason, Rick, that you brought up that initially, that they going to do
moments, highlights, like dude, Tommy took us because we were doing other shows at the time. Remember, we did Real Change at the time, we did Behind the Music, and then we also had Roba at the time, so we were doing like 4 different projects. And so and Brad was living with me. We would spend, our work days were 16 to 17 hour work days. No one, it doesn't matter how passionate you are, no one can sustain that and feel passionate. Right?
No work-life balance.
No work-life balance.
Zero.
Ernest Goodley, our teacher, who we brought up before, he said something that stuck with me. He's like, look around the classroom. He's like, 2 or 3 of you will make a career out of this. He's like, everyone will go get a job. Too? Oh yeah, because well, but that stuck with me of like, oh my God, I'm in a pretty big class here, and only 2 or 3 of us are going to make it. So like that fear drove me, and he's not wrong. Like, I mean, we know a handful, maybe 4 or 5 that are still working in the industry. So going back to those like 17-hour days, I always had that in the back of my head is like, well, this is what it takes. I don't think people really truly understand to have a career in the entertainment business. You got to give up family time. You got to give up hobbies. I mean, it is your life. And Eric, we've talked about this. I'm doing a lot of talking. Sorry, but we've talked about this before that like I'm defined by my job because that is, it's the drive that you have to succeed. It outweighs everything. Now I have a really good work-life balance, right, Gigi? But now I have a good work-life balance. But it's because we spent those years in the apartment together, honing our skills until 2 a.m, showing each other how to do things. There's no question there. I'm just saying.
And scene.
And the director comes out. All right, let's go to that. Let's go to you directing, because I remember in film school you wanted to direct, and we both said the easiest way to get into directing would be to edit, because you could self-edit on set. You just know. So talk to me about that transition when you said, I'm going to be a director, and you do a lot. I mean, like you do edit still, you do DP still, and you do direct. So tell me how you got into each one and what do you like the best?
So it's funny because Goodley gave us another talk, which was the directing talk. What do you guys want to do? Or what do y'all want to do? So,
yeah.
And you can't say direct. So this is like first week of film school. And it's like, what do you want to do? You cannot say direct, because you go into film school, everybody wants to direct.
Everyone wants to direct.
And then more than likely, more than half everyone wants to direct and write. And then there's like 3 people that want to direct, write, and act in their own movies. Right. Mm-hmm. The thing about it is like that, like that's like if you're on a construction site, that's being a foreman. That's being the leader of the team and directing the team, or being the architect. And you have to learn how to swing the hammer first.
Yeah.
And so as far as why I wanted to direct, who doesn't really want to when they get into school? Like it's the coolest thing ever. And you're right. Like everybody said, if you can edit, you're going to sit right next to the director. You're going to get to learn from them and ask questions, and they're going to see all the raw stuff that they've captured.
And that's all the wrong things that they did. How many times have you had to save a director as an editor?
Oh, I've rewritten stories.
100%.
Like uncredited writer.
Right.
On projects. But then you also learn how to look at things a little bit differently when you learn how to put them together. And so when you kind of learn of what definitely objectively doesn't work, you can learn how to like kind of, you're still going to make those mistakes, but you can learn how to spot them a little bit earlier.
But you also go into the mentality when you're directing, you go in the mentality, you're like, all right, look, I know I don't have everything. How do I save myself on the set? It could be as simple as like just fade away or pan away from something or whatever. You figure those little key moments out because you were editing.
Yeah. I mean, and that somewhat is a strength. When I go to set and I direct something, is I know exactly, like, if this doesn't work, like, we can save it. And everyone's like, you sure about that? And I'm like, yeah. Because it's very common. People are like, we'll fix it later.
Fix it in post.
Fix it in post. They have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. You got to put the magicians on it.
Dude.
Make it happen.
Anytime I was on set, I would be like, Brandon will fix it in post.
So, I just want to go back to, it makes just like that high level outside of the industry. It makes a lot of sense for kids to show up to film school and want to be a director, because that's the most prestigious thing. People know directors. Zero people know editors, right? You could like, there aren't people in the,
we're editors and we don't know editors.
Exactly. Right. So it makes sense.
Walter Murch, look up that. My other enemy.
No,
he's not my enemy, because
another enemy. There's a difference.
He's not my enemy. He wrote In the Blink of an Eye. He was the director of the editor of Apocalypse Now and all these major movies. Brandon, there's no more Brandon moment than on the set of the Netflix comedy special Simple Man.
Oh,
So what ended up happening is this was the biggest job of my career, only because I'm so into comedy. Netflix comedies are prestigious at this point. It's with all my friends, Steve, you, Renee, all these people. I have the Texas Crew Company backing up the project and stuff. So it was a big responsibility, which I got gout from. But so the Tobin Center has this really cool feature where the seats, they can go all the way down and have just a flat floor, or they can come up into stadium seating. So we put it up there when we were doing the pre-light and they were building the sets. We had all the shots up. Looks beautiful. It wasn't until the day of where we noticed the problem. The problem was because it was on these risers, anytime people are walking, you have the slight jitter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, because they're on these risers. Now, if you're an audience member, you don't feel that. But when you have a camera, what lens was on that camera, Brandon? I mean, it was a
1000.
I mean, if you know what that is, it's one of these
It's-
massive lenses.
It's like 3 feet long. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 3 feet long. So any movement you see, it's like this. And I'm in the video village watching, and I see these slight little moves, and I'm like, and this is performance number 1, because there was no crowd before, so we didn't know. So I'm like, Brandon, are you seeing this shake? And he's like, I'll take care of it. And it was there through the whole show. And I remember, like, I'm freaking out. We get in the post and Brandon fixes it. That's our relationship in a nutshell, where it's like, as soon as Brandon said, I'll fix it, I didn't have to worry then. I was like, oh, Brandon, we got this. Brandon's got this. And you did. I mean, like, you fixed it in post.
Yeah, because you had to fix other people's stuff, and you realize that I fixed something worse than this, so this is not so bad. You know.
Well, let me ask you this, because we never really talked about, because I always just go, oh, yeah, if Brandon says he's going to fix it, he's going to fix it. But are you ever were you ever nervous that, like, oh shit, I just shot this Netflix special and there's this camera shake? Like, did it ever?
No, not at all.
Just is that experience that you're not nervous at that point?
No, look, take it back to music videos, right? You got 9 cameras shoot, or what was it, 8 or 9 cameras, something like that, right?
Yeah, but Brandon, you were the main camera. You were
of course. I was the main camera, but I wasn't the only.
Right.
And so whether you fix it in post by digitally fixing it or by cutting to an alternative shot, you're going to fix it. And so the confidence was there, knowing that we had variety and that we had covered ourselves. And it like I said, it comes down to, like, this obsession. Like, if you ever do a music video, they'll do like 19 takes of the same thing sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, if you're going to do take 1 or take 2 instead of the same exact shot, because you didn't like one little moment, you're wasting your time, because the likelihood of you using every single moment of that shot is low. Yeah. So it's that sort of mentality. Yeah. It shook for half a second.
I mean,
we may not use it.
I think my fear was that you're on the tight shot, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where everything, and there's a whole bit where we knew we wanted you on that tight shot for, like, the driving bit. We want that whole thing in a tight shot. And then, so that when you pop out, to show that the joke is that he's driving with his sisters in this car. So when you pull out and you feel, even though it's a one-man show, you feel like the sisters are there. So we had this predetermined. You can't cut, like, we in our head, we're not cutting away from that.
Correct. And in that moment, yes. Well, okay. From a technical standpoint, I knew we could fix it because we had enough frame around him to adjust for the tiny little bit of jitter, and we weren't experiencing a lot of motion blur, barely any motion blur. And that's usually what kills stabilization, is if there's a lot of motion blur.
Wow. Okay.
So if you want to answer from a technical aspect, yes, but from a calmness standpoint, when you're in the middle of it and it's such a big issue like the floor,
yeah, right,
you can't fix it, right? There's nothing you can do. So to be like, you have to stay calm, right. because there's literally nothing we can do.
I think a psychologist would say that you're my safety blanket.
Wowzers.
God, this really is like ARC.
It is.
This is it in a nutshell.
Rick, you've been talking more in this episode than in the last 22 episodes combined.
This is therapy for us.
I have a question. Brandon, favorite project you've ever done?
Favorite project to date? I'm going to have to say Addiction Unplugged.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, well, explain the project then.
Addiction Unplugged's a series we showed on A&E. And it's essentially, it's evolved, but its current state is we have people that have gone through addictions in life, substance abuse addictions, and they tell their life story and sort of tell you how they made that change to get out of to get out of addiction and how they're passing that forward, how they're helping others in the addiction world. You know, it's helping you is helping me. In that world. So it's very much just showing you like inspirational stories about how somebody got out. Unlike other shows that sort of glorify being in and sort of like want to show the lack of a better term shit show of where life is at that moment. We're showing you how you got out of that, but more importantly, why you got in and what's different in your life now. Why would you say, like, to me, of all the projects you've done, what makes that the one that sticks out to you? I mean, I know you directed and you DP it and stuff, but yeah, directed and DP'd it, but because it helps people, and it's one of the few projects that like someone has come up and said like, this had nothing to do with like being on a stage and getting an award. It just had to do with like somebody personally connected with an episode.
And I think that's the big difference between you and me. That just right there. Your favorite projects helps people.
Oh, look! You can see you can see awards in the shot that Rick's.
I put up palm trees.
So there they are. So Brandon, you just reminded me of the thing I was thinking about, which touches on the explanation you just gave, which is about like helping people. You know, Rick and I were touching on that earlier with your willingness to be able to help people. You've referenced paying it forward a couple times now. Mm-hmm. There's so many scenarios that feel like such building blocks for who you are and how you operate. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, but that leading to one of my defining moments, Rick.
Let's do it. Here we go. Let's do it.
Only an hour and a half in.
Let's get back into the podcast. Here we go.
Get back in. I'm sorry, audience.
Brandon, tell us about one of your defining moments.
That was really funny. You said audience.
Audience.
Just say Diane. I'm sorry, Diane.
No, it was the year that I decided to take time for me, and it was like that's it was the complete opposite of my normal nature.
When was this?
This was right after 2020. This was about 2021 ish. This was when I was planning on doing some writing and doing some other things.
This is your Eat, Pray, Love moment.
Yeah, my Eat, Pray, Love moment. It wasn't really like to not work because you got to work something, but it wasn't to like chase things the way that I normally do. And God, it was freeing. Like I spent a year. I probably spent most of my days just sitting down, thinking about new ideas, writing, learning new stuff. And what was supposed to be 6 months turned to a year. And then I realized, I better start working again. So I started getting back into it. And then it was, I don't know, it just gave me a new perspective that I kept making excuses why I couldn't find little bits of time throughout my day or my week to do something that's exclusively for me. But somehow I found a year.
Was that heavily driven by the pandemic? Or this was just your own mentality and that was something that needed to happen for you?
Well, during the pandemic, I got a gig post-producing / writing a History Channel show. So I got through that, and that got me through the pandemic. But it was such a stressful job. It was just a lot of elements about it that was just extremely stressful. And on top of that, the pandemic. And when I got out of it, I just needed a break.
But Brandon, what made that defining for you?
I always defined myself by the next thing I was doing.
Ah,
So it was like you finish this one thing, now immediately you're like, okay, what's next? If there's nothing next, you're feeling a little bit like off balance a little bit. And that was the first time I was like, I really don't care what's next right now.
Well, for the first time, the next thing was yourself.
Yeah, the next thing was me.
Ooh.
And no, you're 100% right. And so a lot of that was like introspection. I learned how to meditate during that time, which is completely different.
Do you still do that?
Yeah.
Is there something you could pinpoint that goes, I am now mentally healthier because of this? Or is there like, because I think we talked about it yesterday about self-worth. Like, your job has a lot of self-worth, right? Like if you're on a big job, then you feel better about yourself. If you're not working, do you see that after that year that something shifted in you? Maybe it's that, maybe it's not.
Absolutely. Because prior to that, I think every single thing I did was what was adding up to what that self-worth was. And all of a sudden I realized that it doesn't have to, like I can do a project at the same level I've always done it, but not have this emotional thing tied to it that if I fail, that I failed.
Well, I think it's whether or not you're looking. Yeah, it's whether or not you're looking for external verification
Correct.
of the self-worth as opposed to internal, right? So whether you're basing on the thing that you're doing versus your own internal, justification.
But couldn't you say that it is internal? Because who externally was giving you that?
It's looking
certainly not me.
No, but I'm saying that and I think everybody's different, but it's really easy to get that sense of achievement externally. It's very easy because like somebody likes it, and as much as
I see
it's
what you're saying.
exciting for someone else to say they like it, if someone doesn't like it, it's 10 times more crushing.
Do you, because we're in the industry of reviews, do you ever read review of your show and it just crushes you?
Oh my God! So we would read the Reddit posts for when we did this History Channel show, because we were editing. Oh God, we were editing while the show was airing. So it's like we're doing next week's or 2 weeks from now's episode and reading this review of like,
oh wow,
what are they doing here? Why are they saying this? That's obviously not this. I'm like, fuck.
Dang,
dude. You can't. I don't care. Like I don't care. Like, okay. Take a step back. We're doing this for the audience. We're doing it for them to enjoy it. But at the same time, I can't care if they like it or not. I have to like it. And the people making it have to like it. And that's as far as we can control. If one person out of like 1 million people doesn't like it, okay.
Yeah, but though, you could have 100 good reviews and the one bad one is the one you go, that's what I'm going to focus on.
Yeah, but saying you got to read the room. If most of the reviews are bad, maybe you should reevaluate what you did.
I've never had that. Every single show I've ever done, every single review has been, even the ghost shows, great reviews.
Everything. But it's like you can't harp on the one bad comment because it's going to eat you alive.
That's true. You're right. You know what I stopped doing because of that? I used to watch when our shows would air. I would watch Twitter and watch the hashtags and stuff. I can't do that anymore.
No, you can't.
It makes me want to vomit.
But okay, with that said, sometimes it's hilarious when you watch. Like the Reddits can be hilarious when people are arguing about the meaning of something that you had no meaning put into.
Right.
Like,
way more in depth or philosophical than was ever intended.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't know. But if you see it that way, awesome. Maybe subconsciously I meant. Yeah, I don't like go online and obsess over like reviews. Yeah, except for like the reviews of like the people that we like when we do a project about a subject. It's important for me that they felt like we represented them well.
That's true. That is actually true because we just released the How I Escaped My Cult, #2 on Hulu, and how we portray the family members is actually really important to us because it's their story. You want to feel like we represented them well. So that's true. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and we do a lot of these very, very tricky topics. Like you're talking about cults, and I'm talking about, dealing with addiction and other things. And it's like there's a very fine line between telling the story as a story happened and like glorifying the parts of the story that and also like maybe like washing over some parts that may have been important to them, but it's not exactly TV friendly, and fighting for those moments because it's meaningful for the person.
That's right.
It's really tricky balancing act. And I think you and I have figured that out throughout the years. And I think that's why we keep doing these projects.
Something you're working on now that I want to talk about that I find the work that you're doing on is so cool is Chopper Cops on Paramount Plus. That stuff is so cool. I know that you're in the thick of it and all the backstory and stuff, but dude, I watched those episodes and they're exciting, man. So
Chopper Cops is literally exactly how it sounds. It's the air unit for the Marion County Police Department, or sorry, Sheriff's Office, not Police Department. Big difference. In California, and it's basically just it's just like cops, but with that added element of the air unit.
But you get such a unique perspective because of of the air.
Yeah, because you don't really think about it, right? Like being in the car is completely different.
Sure.
It's we were on one particular I don't know if you call it a manhunt, but we were looking for somebody that ran away, and this was at 4:00 in the morning. Helicopters overhead. I'm in pitch black darkness. I can't see 2 feet in front of me. And I'm with a camera, and my camera's not seeing a single thing. And I'm just hoping I get a glimpse. They can't shine flashlights because if they shine the flashlights, then your eyes don't get used to the dark, and you could be, you could be in trouble. I'm following a canine officer who has a dog, which I have specific instructions not to go in front of them because the dog will bite anything in front of them. So don't go in front of the dog. So I'm keeping my distance, and I have two deputies in front of me. Both armed and ready for action. And I'm sitting here second guessing my choice in saying yes to the job. But then you realize how important the helicopter is at that moment, because they're overhead sort of looking out for danger. Because we were
the literal eyes in the sky.
Yeah, but
eyes in the sky.
Infrared, right?
They have infrared, heat.
Yeah, dude,
everything you can think of. Yeah,
dude, it's so from a viewing perspective. Now it's Texas Crew's show, so like I get to watch the rough cuts and stuff. Even knowing after like talking with you, like what happened on their shoots and stuff, when you see where the suspect is and you see where you guys are, right, and then it cuts to you and you can't see anything, but you see where this person is, and then obviously they're not just picking up the suspect, they're picking up you with the camera and the canine officer and the canine, and you see how close they are, and you see the interactions between the two and stuff. It's so intense. I can't even imagine shooting that.
And the thing is,
are you ever scared?
I was scared out of my mind, but I also knew that I had an entire like sheriff's office like around me. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
they had us wear bulletproof vests, rifle plating, so we were protected.
I don't care about you. I was more worried about the camera.
But the camera,
make sure that's safe.
They're gonna grab the camera and run. The dog's gonna get him. But it was really intense. I mean, my first 5 minutes jumping into the car. It's actually made it into one of the episodes. I jump into the car, and at that point, I didn't really know the radio talk, because they don't talk in normal words.
Sure.
You'll be like blah 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 1031 da 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 da, and each one means car chase, this location, this, that, and the other. And so I'm doing an interview with the guy that I'm riding with, and all of a sudden he just stops talking, looks down, and just starts taking off, no word. It goes, oh, we got one. And we end up going about 140, 150 through traffic, going after these two people that allegedly had, well, not allegedly, I think they did, but they had stolen guns. And that was reported earlier in the day, and they found them.
Oh, wow.
So we knew that there was a possibility they were armed. And I mean, I didn't know any of this. I just knew that he stopped talking and started driving.
Wow. But you're producing this right as you go. Like, you have to ask them questions and try and get the story out of them, correct?
Yeah, but when they're working and when they get into that mode, you have to let them work, because
okay.
For the officer, the officer's life can be in danger if
sure
they're worrying about me.
Right.
Because that person's job and why we only went out with officers that were approved was officers that could handle that responsibility of doing their job and also making sure that we were safe.
Wow.
And so, we end up in the car and we end up, guns drawn with the guys at the dead end, and that was like 5 minutes into the job.
And your job is to roll.
And I just rolled
to film. Yeah.
So what I'm doing at the time is I'm filming this and also taking mental notes, because I'm thinking I have to interview about this later.
Right.
Because that's where I'm going to ask the questions and fill in the holes.
Yeah.
So, and there's nowhere to write it down. So it's sort of this mental notes as I'm going. Then as soon as we kind of get done, I go into my phone and I start just typing in my questions for later. And then a few days later, we filled in the blanks.
When did you change your pants?
Yeah, right.
Dude, that was crazy. When you see that footage, it's crazy, because like I know my perspective, but I didn't realize everything else that was happening. Because literally 20 seconds before we pulled up, the passenger of the car got out and ran, and we didn't see that.
Jeez. Right.
Well, at least I didn't see it. The officer I was with knew it happened because of the radio comms, which are in code. So I have no idea what's happening at the time.
But now everyone will get to see it on Paramount Plus.
It was like once you start learning the codes, it started getting fun. Because you're really? Cool. Okay, that's happening. Although that code doesn't mean anything. That's a license plate check.
Doesn't mean anything yet. It's a great show. All right, we got to start wrapping up, right? We're close to 2 hours. What did we miss, Brandon?
What a roller coaster. And
it is. It's been a roller coaster.
Insane.
Yeah. It is.
It's fun. When we have you on again, then we'll dive more into some of those other fun stories that we didn't get into.
No. We got to get past No, because I know you have pictures. I know you have pictures.
Yeah, the problem. The funny thing is, we won't get into this, but like on our thread that I'm looking at right now, there's photos that Brandon's like, so is this just a roast on me? It's like, no.
That was not the goal. It's definitely not the goal.
It's not. And we respect the hell out of you and love you and all that bullshit.
For sure.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, buddy.
Later.
Bye. He literally walks that.
I know, he walks away.
He walks off. It's very dramatic.
That was fun. But
Dude, we're at 2 hours 15. I guarantee this episode is not going to be more than an hour and a half at most. So there's a lot of good stuff that's going to go.
There is stuff that's going to get cut. Yeah, I knew it was going to happen. It was just, but it's psychologically, it's so funny that how much you just want to step on him. Like, it's just like,
I know.
It's always been that way, though. It's like that brother thing. It's that, like that brother mentality or whatever. Like, he's talking about it and you like, boom, jump.
I know. And he knows when to stop too, because it's years and years.
I know.
He's just like, go ahead, Rick. This is our relationship.
His meditation is working.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Because before it would be like, I'm not done. I was like, no, I know you're not done, but you are.
Yeah, but it's funny because now I'm going to talk regardless.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, but it's just such a good guy, and we didn't touch on this during the podcast, but it's actually been really fun too. I mean, he's younger than us. He's significantly younger than us.
Not significant. He's like 2 years younger than us.
No, he's not. He's more than that.
Yeah,
but
is. 2 years.
Okay. Is it only 2?
2. Yeah. He just had a birthday. 2
It must
years.
be because he's so small, so cute.
Oh my God. He's pocket sized. It's so funny. This dude is so well respected in the business. Like when you bring up his name, everyone, but we just shit on him.
Not
like
for us.
Yeah. It's like, dude, I know you, man. I've seen you at your lowest.
I have footage. What I was going to say was I actually really appreciate, so regardless of age, in my head, I was thinking he was younger, but it makes sense. You guys were in college at the same time. It's been fun to watch his growth. Right. Like, so even from,
as a person,
as a person,
yeah.
like just from a maturity standpoint, or, you know what I mean? Like just across the board, we were kids when you guys first started in college and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it's been really fun. Even just sitting here on today's podcast and watching him, I like mentally, I was going down this path of like, wow, he's like, he's grown, right? It's such the different guy that we played super poolside ball toss, whatever. So many years ago, which is great. It's awesome to see. I love it.
But that's the thing is like, he's so creative. Like we would just make up stuff like that super poolside ball toss. Like we just made that up in the back like that. I don't do that anymore. It's like, that's part of like what I'm missing. I'm like, just make up stuff, and every time, like when he came down to the PJ thing, like every time with him now is just so memorable. Like every time we're together now, it's just memorable.
It's fun. Yeah.
It's fun.
He's good people. It's good to be around. Good to spend time with. It's a fun podcast.
It was.
Are we done?